Welcome to Bluegum Online Center, and in this video we are going to look at a new topic, and the new topic that we are going to look at is no other than culture. And we'll start first defining what culture is. From there we'll look at the importance of culture. After the importance of culture, we are going to look at the types of culture, and this is where we are going to end in this video. So let's get started. So what is culture? So culture can be defined in so many ways, but one simple way in which we can define culture, we say culture is the way of life. So a way of life, we refer to it as culture. So another way you can say culture is the way of life that has been adopted by a person or an individual because of belonging to a particular society. Let me give a good example. Let's assume someone born in Zambia, they travel to America when they are still young. So they won't behave like a Zambian, even though they are pure Zambian by birth, but because of the way of life in the society that they will belong to, they will behave like that particular society. So such behavior, we refer to it as culture. So culture, in short definition, we just say it's the way of life. Let's get to another stage. So the importance of culture. Number one, identity. What do we mean by identity? Let me explain. So culture reinforces one's identity. Culture reinforces one's identity, meaning culture helps one to be identified, to belong to a particular group. So for example, during traditional ceremony, you see what happens in African setup. Because of such reinforcement attributes, you are able to identify that this person belongs to this particular group. So culture reinforces one's identity. That's one importance of culture. The other importance is that in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 3, if I've not mistaken, culture has been declared to be a right that has to be enjoyed by everyone. So according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it has been declared that everyone has got the right to participate or to enjoy their culture without any discrimination. So that's another importance because it has been declared in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. From there, we also have the fourth we also have the third importance of culture, which is understand our origins. So culture helps us to understand where we come from. This one is simple and well explained. And the fourth one is that culture brings about development. This one I have to highlight. How does culture bring about development? So culture brings about development in this way. So during traditional ceremonies, you see people, especially tourists, traveling from different countries, coming to visit and watch how Africans different ethnic groups celebrate or get to go about their own different cultures. So in such a way, when tourists comes from different countries, they bring about development because they bring a source of income and they bring money, and that's a good way I can explain how culture brings about development. Apart from that, how does culture brings about development? Through National Museum, Art Council. So through those government sectors, people come to learn a lot about African history, and when they learn about African history, there are different sectors like movie industries. They get interested. They begin to do movies on culture diversity in Africa, and it brings about money. So, but there are so many ways, but just to mention a few. Away from that, I said we'll end on types of culture. So according to our syllabus, there are 10 types of culture, but I'll explain on the 5 types of culture, and the task that I'm giving you is to explain the other 5 types of culture. So I have already given you the task to do in this video, which is to explain the other 5 types of culture. But I'll explain also the 5 types of culture. I have written only one, which is folk culture. So folk culture is the old traditional culture. Others call it the oral culture, the culture that has been transferred from one person to the other through the word of mouth. There are so many folk cultures around African setups, and though they are losing value, but there are still others that are still following them. Let me give a good example. It is common in most African tribes, to be specific Zambia, that a male, if the father, let me give an example, they are supposed to be saved, I don't know, this inondo, when a chicken is killed. Yes, when a chicken is killed. So such is just a folk, a tale that was used to guide females on how they should save a best meal to their husbands. And it has been there, it has been trending, but due to loss of communication, it is fading, because now you can find even children enjoying such a meal that way back was only saved for the father. And yes, so such we can call them folk culture. From there, we also have what we refer to as mass culture, MASS, mass culture. So this is the culture that has been introduced through machines and technological mediums. And this culture is growing very, very, very fast, because everyone has technology in their pockets, which I mean a phone. And they are operating on these phones, they are getting to do a lot using these phones, and it's growing wide. So mass culture, we can say, it's a culture that has been introduced through technological devices such as phones, computers, and many more others. Then synthetic culture, so others call synthetic culture as the culture that has come to replace the African culture with the Western culture. Or you can say synthetic culture is the culture that is growing through the young generations that are coming. And you can see this culture through the way of dressing, the way of talking, the way of music that is enjoyed by this young generation as compared to the past. Then I'll end with an ideal culture. Oh, okay, I'll end with real culture. I'll explain the ideal culture, and then I'll end with real culture. So what is ideal culture? So when we talk of ideal culture, what is an ideal culture? So an ideal culture is a culture where people aspire to be in a certain way of living, but they are not actually replicating or producing the actual reality of what they say. For example, Zambia is declared to be a Christian nation, but a lot of people have got consent to say, Zambia, we don't live as a Christian nation, because a lot of bad things happen. So such we can refer to as an ideal culture, where people aspire to be of a certain way of life, but they are not actually in that position. And the last one, real culture. This is the real culture. So the reality of what is happening now is what we refer to as real culture. For example, but this example is not very good. Okay, but I'll give it anyways. African women are taught to come putting on chitenge materials when attending a funeral. Yes, it's happening, but it's not all the case. Yes, so but I can give it as a good example. What is happening here now is what we refer to as real culture. And thank you very much. This is where we are going to end with this video. And don't forget, the task that I've given us is to explain on the other 5 types of culture before we get going and move to the other subtopic of culture.